Hello, everyone. Let's get started. So we're going to be passing around a sign-up sheet in a little bit. It's completely optional, but it'll help us kind of understand how many people are attending each of the sessions. So if you could just put your name and your company on it, that'd be great. And it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. Juan Vasquez is a communications and data analyst at the Mayor's Operations Innovation Team at the City of LA. Please help me welcome Juan.
Hello, everybody. Whoa, that is way louder. I guess I don't have to yell. Thank you all for coming to this session. Again, my name is Juan Vasquez. Every slide will have my little Twitter handle up there, so feel free to tweet along. I created the slides in a way that are hopefully very easy to share online and to just kind of pull out the main insights. So today, we will be talking about how do we deal with data discomfort. A lot of times, I'm sure you might see it at your work, you're trying to push forward a project, working really hard to make progress. There's a lot of technical components, it's complex processes, and you're having your small wins and making legitimate progress. Along the way, you're going to have to deal with a lot of folks that might not understand the work. There might be different reasons why they're not comfortable with it. Regardless of those reasons, they can kill your project very quickly. I'm sure you all see some of that at your own workplace. Working at the City of Los Angeles, I deal with a lot of folks that are not so comfortable with technical work. And so today I hope to share with you some really good takeaways that you can apply at your own workplaces. Let's define this term right here, though. Hello? There we go. I don't want to say that everybody that works at the city is a bureaucrat. That is not true. There's a lot of highly talented people from diverse industries, diverse backgrounds. When I say bureaucrat, I mean somebody that they give into that discomfort, and instead of embracing it and trying to jump in and understand and gain knowledge and work and collaborate, they would rather stay complacent with both the status quo and the systems in place. So let's use that as like the way we couch bureaucrat. Again, not everybody at the city is a bureaucrat, not all elected officials are, so just want to acknowledge that. So what's the goal for today? I want you all to feel more comfortable overcoming pushback at your workplaces. It's really that simple. When it comes time to have the presentations, have the discussions, make the pitches, get the buy-in, having a few extra tools and tactics that you can employ in your own workplace to make sure progress happens and projects don't die. Before we jump in, I wanted to share with you a little bit about myself. I've been fortunate to work in ad agencies. That's where it all started. So I'm a communicator by trade, studied advertising at the University of Florida. I spent my first few years working in ad agencies. Since then, I had a lot of coffee, so the things like all over the place, that's why. I've worked in nonprofits, politics, and most recently at a technology company in downtown Los Angeles called Nation Builder. Some of you might have heard of it or even used it in some way. I was the social media lead, really trying to understand how to quantify social media's ROI. How can it be an engine of economic development or business development for the company? And now I'm fortunate to work with this great team right here. This is our mayor here in Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti. He established what's called the Operations Innovation Team close to a year ago. So a little context for what the team is about and what we tackle. About a year or so ago, the private sector and the businesses in the community said, hey, Mayor, there are some problems that really affect the way we can thrive and contribute to LA's economy. So how about we pull together a little ninja type team from the private sector, bring them in to work as in-house consultants for about 2 years, and see if with collaborative leadership, analytics, and technology, they can solve some of these problems so we can do better business with the city and within the city. So most of us are private sector professionals. This is our director. We have 3 project leads that lead 3 of our initiatives, and a project coordinator, and we have a small cohort of interns that support our work. I work with all 3 project leads and my director on doing data analysis and framing the stories so that as we speak with different stakeholder groups, we can craft a very specific message that gets them to understand our work, that gets them excited about the progress that we're making, and then most importantly, they don't stifle it. They don't kill our projects. We need to make sure that the deliverables come through in a year from now. So I've been here about a year, great experience, excited to go back to the private sector, but really excited to make some progress for this city that I love very much. I am an immigrant. I moved here from Colombia about 13 years ago with my family. No, that's a lie. About 17 years ago with my family. I figured here's a platform full of people. Just wanted to drop in my own kind of quiet narrative on that. Embrace it. Tell your stories. Be yourselves. So before, any thoughts, questions before we jump in? We can, I get excited, so if we just start talking, stop me, raise your hand, yell something, be like, dude, chill. Question. Show of hands, are we good? Thumbs up? Cool, let's jump in. This is how we're going, again, iterate the goal. For y'all to feel more comfortable overcoming pushback in your own workplaces. That's what we're gonna do. Here's how we're gonna do it. I'm gonna share 3 stories. Each of them is attached to one of our 3 initiatives. I will frame the goal we were trying to accomplish, the pushback we were receiving, and the solution that we used to address said pushback. I'll have a few pictures along the way. Then at the end, we'll probably do about 20 minutes of me sharing with you. Then we'll have about 10 minutes for general discussion, Q&A. I do have business cards up here. If I don't touch on something or don't get to your question, follow up with me. You can also hit me up on Twitter up there. I'm pretty good. Cool, let's do it. The first thing that we're gonna talk about is a real estate initiative. Again, team has 3 initiatives. One of them consists of building the city's real estate portfolio. LA is the 2nd largest city in the country. If you ask it, what land do you own, you will get a variety of answers, none of which are correct. After a year working with the city, we are this close to getting there. So we've had to build this database, largely consisting of about 45 different data sets pulled from Google Docs and Excel files and Access databases. We've been working very closely with the county assessor and using their open data portals, using their APIs to update our records, figure out what's not working, what is working. And we're now at a point where we've centralized our large data set. We have this master list complete with polygons and addresses and about 50 different fields for each record, so you can really know what's up with each city-owned property. And there's been a lot of data work related to that. And that means that a lot of people just don't understand it. So again, our goal was to build a database that listed off what the city owns, its real estate assets. Very valuable, right? Like LA, all kinds of dynamics are happening, homelessness, affordable housing, where do businesses go? These are all questions that we're trying to help answer. And the city was using Google Docs and Excel files to manage its land. Not cool, man, not cool. So that was the goal. The pushback was people just didn't get it, right? Like, it's like, well, what do you mean you're data scrubbing? Like, what's latitude, longitude? What's geolocation? What's a polygon? We don't know any of those things. So really, it was just like, we have to simplify this process. Time and time again, iterate, yes, acknowledge it. It's simple, it's difficult, it's complex. There's a lot of little work. I've been swimming in Excel for like 10 months. I dream now in tables and rows. But the people that make these decisions, they just need to be able to absorb it very quickly. And so here's one example of how we do that. What you're seeing here is the entire diagram. This is just a little graphic that I built on a tool called Lucid Chart. It's great for diagramming. And what we said was, let's break down the process that we've gone through in the last 10, 11 months, and let's see if we can just get it in one sheet of paper. Because the city is awesome at generating 100-page reports in white paper with black ink, with all kinds of formatting, right? Like, let's love our headers and our subheads and our appendix and our citations. How about we just have one sheet of paper with nice colors and very straightforward blurbs that tell you what we've done? Then you can make your decisions. So what we did here was we said, okay, how many phases of work have we kind of gone through? We landed on 6. By the time it's all said and done, we'll have gone through 6 phases of data-related work. Everything from identifying the initial data sets down to figuring out what the unique identifiers are, where do things join, what records are busted, who owns these things, what needs to be updated, how do we map it. We actually found a group of land that didn't have any addresses, vacant lots. Usually when they're vacant, nobody has said, hey, like, here's where you would send mail because nobody lives there, so why send mail? So we've actually had to attach addresses so that they can be effectively mapped and shown on the system so the city can make better decisions, sell them, leverage them, give them to a nonprofit for them to do their work. So once we said, okay, that's what the 6 phases are, let's think about how people absorb information. Color is one way to simplify it. So we basically said, phase 1, let's make that red because we were really just bottom of the totem pole. We were stuck at a stoplight. So we started with red, and we just kind of moved down the color spectrum. Phase 2 is orange. Phase 3 is yellow. So we're kind of tapping into the way we naturally process information, right? If we see red, we're kind of thinking stop. We're ending towards green. We ended with black. I just ran out of colors, to be honest with you. But this was one example. So here, what we really aimed to do was simplify the process in a way that is easy to consume. You can spend 2 minutes reading through the bullet points, and make some really good decisions or understand what this team's up to. I'm going to move on to the second story. I'm happy to dive a little deeper into how we've used this document. It's largely been around reports, or when we do present, just quick handout when people have 2 minutes to listen to us. It's like, are you happy with the work? Yes. Can we keep going? Yes. Can we get more money? Sure. All right, we'll see you later. And that's it, right? Like, conversations can be that simple sometimes. So any thoughts or questions, or can we move on to number 2? Yeah.
How involved is Mayor Jensen? Does that say what you're doing? Or is it here you once a month or once a week?
We're in constant communication with this executive team. We do periodical briefings and a lot of just correspondence back and forth. We're at a point now where we're creating what are called decision memos that basically tell him, here's the background of the work we've done, here's the problem, here's the solution we're proposing, here's the specific decision we need you to make. He's a busy man and he's got a bunch of people working for him, so we're not kicking it on Friday having beers, that's for sure. Any other questions or thoughts? Yeah.
In that context, this iteration that typically goes on as you present
Sure.
feedback, is this like the end product, or do you really have a good sense going into it? Just kind of
No, I can't tell you how many documents I've created. Maybe 5% have been used. A lot of times you just create something and you're like, this doesn't cut it. So we learn, we build. We've done hundreds of presentations at this point, so we have a constant feedback loop that is telling me what is working and what is not. And then, yeah, this is probably the final version was probably like 10 versions deep. Cool. Thumbs up. Oh, okay.
Is this data source just for use by the city government, or how much, to what extent is it made available?
Our baseline was set using the county assessor's open data portal, so all of that is readily available. The system that we're putting the data in has a front-facing portal that allows you to dig into certain properties that we say should be public. I'm of the belief that everything should be public, believe me. I'm a believer of open source and open portals. There's a lot of sensitivities with some of these properties, and so before we put everything public, we need to get proper buy-in from all 15 council districts, from the mayor's office, and the departments involved. So eventually, it will be public. Right now, it lives in my computer. Cool. All right. We'll circle back for questions. Let's move on to story number 2. So just real quick. This is, to couch it, this is how we simplified this process. We used color. We put a very complicated process on one sheet of paper, and then we showed incremental progress. Those 6 phases basically said, look, these people are making steady, consistent progress. One sheet of paper, stick to that. All right, story number 2. The goal here is attached to our wellness initiative. So we talked about real estate. Initiative number 2 is making sure the city employees are kept safe. If they do get hurt, that they come back faster than they typically would, because all of that means workers' compensation. And the city spends a lot of money on workers' compensation. If you look at any LA Times headlines, last year something like $223 million were spent on workers' comp. That's a lot of dough. So one way that we can improve, I usually just yell, so this microphone's turned off a little bit. One way that we can improve the way employee wellness and safety is approached is by better data and record keeping and reporting. We have a lot of others, miscellaneous, cumulative. In some cases, for some departments, the number 1 cause of injury is cumulative injury, and the number 1 body part injured is multiple body parts. What about that is actionable? Is it a hand and a foot? Is it 5 fingers? Is it my neck and my head? Did I fall and trip? Like what? Those questions can't be answered. So we're working with the individual departments, personnel department mainly, and the top cost-producing departments to get them to report their information more accurately. We're also figuring out how do they want to receive information, right? When the personnel department says, hey, general services department or Department of Transportation or Sanitation, last month X number of employees were injured, here's why. That discussion, how do the departments want to receive that information? If it's an Excel file that they receive once a month with a few pretty charts that only looks at 1 month of information, what decisions can you make about that? If we want somebody to look at comprehensive year-long, multi-year trends, are we expecting them to open up 12, 24, 36 Excel files, line them up side by side, and start saying, oh, it looks like here, this changed? No, people are not going to do that. So we need to have that conversation. So how is information exchanged a little better? So here again, the goal for this, enhance the reporting and data collection. The pushback we're getting are that you're digging into people's data, right? You're saying, hey, Department X, 5 people got injured last month. Why? There's this feeling of, oh my God, am I in trouble? Like, did I do something wrong? Why are you looking into my closet? Like, what skeletons are you going to pull out? What's going to get me in trouble with my boss? So just making people comfortable with the notion that, hey, we're all collaborating. We're all on the same team. These issues affect everybody. The way we address that pushback of, oh my God, am I in trouble, was through educating each other. We're not there to educate them on the work we do. I've been chipping away at this for 11 months, talking with people that have been doing this work for like 30 years, right? They see this weird looking kid come in and be like, data, charts. They absorb that as you're telling me how to do my job and you don't know anything about it. So for this, we had to listen a lot. We step into meetings with the top 8 departments, and the way we educated them was by letting them play with their own data in a way that they had never seen it before. So this is a really cool tool called Tableau. It's for business intelligence. It's basically an Excel on steroids where you have a multitude of tabs. You can put them all on, and on the tabs you create individual visualizations. You put them on one dashboard and can connect the visualization so that if I click on one over here or 5, something here changes. So it allows you to have a really fluid conversation as questions pop up. We ask things like, what body parts are being injured, what divisions, within a department there's usually a number of divisions, what divisions are being injured or are the claims coming from, what employee positions. I did have to kind of anonymize this data because it is people's personal information. So in my department of awesome, stormtroopers are the position that get injured mostly, then Ninja Turtles, then Minions, Smurfs, and Space Invaders. But now you can have really well thought out discussions on, do we have stormtroopers generated 28 claims. We have like 5,000 stormtroopers, so that's actually not that bad. But if we only have like 4 Ninja Turtles and 26 claims came out of these 4 Ninja Turtles, is it fraud? Are they doing a really hazardous job fighting Shredder? I don't know, but let's figure it out. Again, they're used to seeing Excel, like Excel files with a pie chart and a few counts. We now presented them a multitude of charts that allow you to click in and the numbers adjust. So you say, okay, over the last year we generated 300 claims. Let's click on the number 3 body count. Boom, we generated 4 because people slipped and fell and it hurt legs and toes. Right? So now you can start drilling down. Oh. So again, the solution for this particular set of pushback of, oh my God, am I in trouble, is we educated each other by listening, really embracing the idea of drilling down into specific issues, and we brought together more data and more fields that they had ever seen in one comprehensive way. We brought a bunch of systems together, painted a really well thought out picture, and it was something unlike they had ever seen before, so now they're like, oh, this is possible, and I'm not in trouble, and I'm learning, and you're listening to me, so a very productive conversation. Any thoughts or questions on this before we move along to the last story? No? Cool. Too far. Oh. All right. So the last initiative that we work on focuses on government procurement. That's the way the city buys products and services. We spend roughly $8.2 billion a year buying things and services. That could be a huge engine of economic development. It could support our minority, women, LGBTQ, veteran-owned businesses. It can mean that a startup can go from 2 people to 25 to 50 and help solve the world's problems. It can mean a wealth of things. We need to prioritize that. We need to have conversations about it, figure out what are we buying, where are the dollars going. So in this particular case, so we're streamlining that. We're figuring out what technology can do, what accountability means, what centralized decision-making means. And one of the things we're trying to do is figure out where to dedicate programs for our small and local businesses. Like within LA County, within LA City, where are the businesses, where are the minority-owned businesses, where are the women-owned businesses, where do we dedicate resources to? What do we prioritize? Do we prioritize engineering services? Like, do we do some education around how engineering firms can better provide services to the city? Do we look at printing services? Do we look at Highland Park, or do we look at Hollywood, or do we look at Santa Monica, where there's a set number of bandwidth or people or resources? Where do we send them to? The pushback we're getting is people really had no idea how to make the decision. It wasn't complicated. The information was there. They understood the processes pretty well, there was just no clear pathway on what decisions or how to make those decisions. So our solution was to contextualize that. The way we did that was with a map. This is Tableau, again. Tableau lets you map things very easily, as simple as grabbing the field zip codes and dumping it into the screen and setting some filters, and boom. So right here, what you're seeing, this is the complete dashboard. On this side, we have top zip codes with the most women-owned businesses and their area of focus. So in zip code 90017, we have 5 businesses that offer professional, scientific, and technical services, and they're all owned by women. We also have a lot of construction, public admin, and so I basically filtered out 1, 2, 3, top 5 zip codes. So now when we put a policy in place that says, hey, Bureau of Contract Administration, they're largely involved in the way the city buys things. You need to dedicate, you need to figure out what programming you need to do to better educate our women and minority-owned businesses. How can they better procure with the city? Now we can just be like, here, you should really consider the zip code, because there's a bunch of people there, that are already doing business with us. Let's improve the way they do business with us. And then on the right side here, which I didn't include it so you could see this one really well, we have minority-owned businesses. There was something really interesting that came out of this, and it's that in both maps, it was the same zip codes. So where in the same zip codes that we have most women-owned businesses is the same zip codes where we have the most minority-owned businesses. That makes decision-making really simple. Like, let's go start poking at those zip codes. Let's figure out what those people need, and that will inform our larger strategy, right? Like, we pilot, iterate, and try and test new things, and then that informs future decisions. It also means that there's some redundancy there. Most, or at least a percentage of the women-owned businesses are also have the minority certificate. So it's not that there might be 2 separate businesses, each with their own certification, is that it's the same business with 2 certifications. So should we have a discussion on what other certifications you can get? Should we streamline the certification process so as you get 1 certification, you can bust out 2 more in that same process? Because clearly people are getting multiple certificates. This is the type of questions that we want to kind of poke at and help surface. And so this means that now people can make decisions very quickly. So to couch this particular solution, again, the problem was people didn't know how to make decisions. We really contextualized it and provided a pathway forward. We did this by mapping, filtering out, so really saying, let's not focus on all of the zip codes that are in LA County, because there's a lot, I think like 1,000 or something. Let's just focus on the top 5 where these people are at, and let's meet them there. And we started connecting the dots, right? Certifications, minority, female-owned, and now there's a narrative. There's a story that you can really absorb and digest. I think that's 20 minutes. Is that cool? All right. So I will be quiet now. We have about 7 minutes. I'm curious to hear any questions, thoughts, perhaps how you could apply this in your own workplaces. I hope this was valuable, and I appreciate your ears and attention. Yeah, I heard a voice.
Out of curiosity,
Where are
when
you
you made
speaking
that
from?
population.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay, I'm just going to speak loudly. Out of curiosity, when you made that population map, of women/minority business, did you normalize the population density?
No, not yet. We want to figure that out. Oh, that could be it. I mean, it's based on the number of registrations. When a business signs up with the city, it's the zip code they identify, so it's theoretically where the money's sent to. But looking at population density, I'm actually going to note that. That's a great idea. Cool. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
So for me, the second example is my strongest case of college, where there's cultural history
Yeah.
and there's latent agenda playing out there, not just lack of information. So outside of, can you maybe give a little example of a harder case of where you were presenting something like a Pablo, but they're like, yeah, but still, what are you doing?
Oh, for sure. The very first meeting that we sat down, you're talking about this example, right? The very first meeting that we sat down to share this with the specific department, we asked them the question, how do you use data? And their answer was, we don't. Then I said, do you call and talk to other cities? Because the work that you do happens at all other cities. And their response was, do you think there's value in that? With like a very serious face. I asked, do you talk to other people who do the same job you do? Their response is, do you see value in that? And so there's just like a natural disconnect in how brains work. And in that case, I listened really intently, and I figured out how they make their own decision-making process. And there what I found was they have their own agenda for how they're going to keep their employees safe. What I need to get them to do is to use data to back up their own arguments. Once I get them comfortable with using data in the first place, then we can talk about how their strategies can pivot away from, Jose got hurt last week, he hurt his foot, maybe we should do a foot safety program, to actually saying, hey, over the last 5 years, actually we've had mostly hand injuries, let's consider doing some sort of safety around that.
How specifically did you train them up?
The conversation happened a month ago, so we haven't done that yet. Right now, we're doing kind of the focus grouping. We're going to have 3 more conversations with the largest departments. We're synthesizing down our learnings, and now we're going to educate the personnel department on how, A, they need to analyze data, and B, provide that data back to the department. So we're largely facilitators, not the implementers, because the mayor's office doesn't handle safety, personnel does. So there's a large facilitator role.
There's driving value to examples to then case study
Mhm.
and kind of follow a hierarchy within the hierarchy.
Yes. And some departments have full-time analysts that can replicate our work very quickly. And the beauty of Tableau, I set up the process. I can give them my workbook and tell them how to structure their files. They can dump it in and do this in like, I don't know, 30 minutes maybe if they have the data scrubbed properly. Others, it's like a much more, they have no safety people. They had been dreaming about something like this but had no idea how to do about it. So now I got to go from Excel to Tableau and get them through that learning curve. Do we have time for? Okay. Cool. Any other questions, thoughts? We have like 3-5 minutes. Yes?
So your second example, I was meant to think about how people were concerned that their own job might be on the line depending on certain answers. I doubt that's unique to government.
Correct.
That's kind of everywhere.
Yep.
What do you think the role of both workplace culture and sort of a chain of responsibility? How does that contribute to fit into your goals?
I think that's a great question. I think to address that, leadership has to be very open about caring about their employees' professional development and growth. If leadership shows that they're invested in their employees' career and they want them to grow, then I think there's less of a fear of if I mess up, I'll get fired because my employer cares about me. Also, clear explanations of why things are happening. At least in government, what I've seen is a lot of times we pass, or elected officials create policy, they pass it, and then the departments get dictated, you must now do X, Y, Z. No context, no explanation. It's just like, go clean your room. Why? Because I said so. That doesn't work. So really contextualizing things and having full-blown conversations about why now you have to do something that you didn't have to do yesterday. Does that answer your question? Cool. Any other thoughts, questions? Yes? All 3 problems kind of kicked off at the same time. We are using similar policy mechanisms to move them forward. So at this point is largely as things happen, like which wolf is closest to my sled type thing. We're reforming government in a way that it's never really been done before, so we don't have a timeline to really go off of. I think at this point, we know some are closer to getting to a really stable place, some are a little further behind, so we usually dedicate things when it's like we feel like there's a victory up close, let's get that victory, regardless of the initiative. And because I work across all 3, I don't really see them as separate. It's just like one collective effort that interconnects in very unique ways. Yes. And at least for me, I know there's some policy areas where we're likely not going to be successful because I have 1 year left. I definitely want to focus on the areas that I can definitely walk away with a W at, like that I can win for sure. Wow. I'm I'm a whole lot more patient now, for sure. I think this is the city of LA has 41,000 employees. This is by far the largest organization I've ever worked at. Prior to this, it was 120 employees. So I think I have a much deeper understanding of what collaboration really means. I'm also way more comfortable not saying it in these words, but the message basically being, I know this better than you. And so I'm going to move forward in the way that I think is best, regardless of your own apprehensions or need for appeasement. There's a lot of things. I think a lot of time is wasted in government because people need to feel comfortable or their insecurities need to be appeased. I don't have time for that. And I'm more comfortable framing that in a nice way. But because we're amongst friends, I say it like I actually feel it.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll have one last question.
Okay.
So you're producing these dashboards for decision makers to consume. Are you doing analytics to see if I'm using them?
Not yet. They don't have these usable yet. I'm
Is that part of the plan?
Yes. My very subtle pitch that I'm making to people as we move along is that the city should buy a Tableau server. It costs about $10,000, and that way we can share with and to each other and just publish. You know, you can't put workers' comp data on like public, right? I wish I could just put it on Tableau public, and then everybody could go figure this out. But there's HIPAA limitations, all that. If I can get the city to buy a server, then we can very easily put this out and track who's using it and what. Cool? All right.
All
Thank
right.
you all.
Thank
Really
you,
appreciate
Juan.
it.